Phoenix Down Radio is on the air.
Welcome everybody to Phoenix Down Radio, episode number 181. I'm your host Klaus Nightbringer, and joining me as always is Seyrr Timono. What's going on, buddy?
Oh, 10 more Pixie Berry tarts. 10 more Pixie Berry tarts.
Make the tarts. Make all the tarts. Ha ha ha.
No, I only need to make 30 tarts, assuming I'm doing this good.
No, do
Please
them
don't
all.
make me make all of the tarts. That would be a lot of tarts.
All the tarts. I'm kidding.
Is that our episode title?
Yes, I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to see. Anyway, it's been a month since the last episode. I kind of had a previous engagement 2 weeks ago. If you're a member of our Discord, you will see a pretty awesome picture of me and my girlfriend. We're looking real good, I thought. Looked real good. Yes, it was a charity gala that we were at, and it's their big fundraiser for the year. They sold a wheelbarrow of alcohol for $4,000.
Man, I have no idea how much alcohol a wheelbarrow's worth is. It was like, I hear that and I'm like, is that a good deal? Is that a little expensive, but it's top shelf?
No, it was about $800 worth of product, but because it's for a charity, they it's the one thing that they sell that's on the auction every year that just garners a stupid amount of money. But I mean, that's why they keep doing it, because
it sounds like something that it's become at least partly everyone's going to overbid a little because it's partly to make the donation and partly because it's got its own mythos.
Yep, it's an annual
Things like
meme.
that are fun.
It's a meme at this point. So
yep.
Other than
That's
that,
kind of great.
It was an amazing time. The food was great. Lots of really cool people. My parents were there. I gifted them tickets to this for Christmas, and so they were finally able to go there, and it was a lot of fun. They got to go out and have a night out. Well, they had just gotten back from a vacation, but well, we all want to get to that point where when we get a little older, we just want to be able to go, when we're retired, go on vacation. So they went on a cruise, and then they spent a few days in New Orleans. For they were there for Mardi Gras. So that was kind of fun.
Did your mom get beads? Did your dad?
We're not going there.
Haha. Put a disturbing image in your head.
We're not going there. With that bombshell, what have you been up to the last month?
Oh.
What haven't you been up to the last month, I should say?
Yeah, it feels like it's all kind of run together.
I get it.
We are in early March, late February, so preparations for library summer camps have already started.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's a lot that needs to be arranged. Curriculum, reaching out to some of our partners who will be doing workshops and the like. I've got a couple different children's museums to contact and see if any of them will be able to do a program for us.
Okay.
Just lots of little stuff like that. Plus it needs to... Oh, yeah. No, there's just a lot to be done. We're trying to make some changes this year. There's so many moving pieces.
Yeah, that's kind of what ends up happening with stuff like that. But it gets better. The more frequently you're able to do it, it gets easier. And
I've got an idea of what needs to be done. At this point, I'm waiting on responses to a lot of things.
Okay.
And trying to figure out how often I can reasonably harass people before it gets annoying.
Has the weather been okay out there? So you had a bunch of rain for a while.
I was about to say, it's been great. We've had so much rain. Which, I already just love rain. I love the sound. I love staring out into it. I like going out on the balcony and being nice and cold. I grew up in Southern California. Rain has a mystique to it. And the state's been under drought conditions for I don't know how long at this point. It feels like the few times we haven't been in a drought, we've been on the edge of it. So
I will
having lots of rain combined with short periods for it to dry out and soak in, I am hopeful that the reservoirs will be less doomful.
Well, I actually saw an article talking about that they're at all-time highs for the last 10 years.
I mean, the last 10 years have been pretty bad.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, they're like up significantly. So,
yeah,
you're doing a lot better.
It's still an improvement. There. I'm still happy. When I first moved up here, which was, God, like 15 years ago, it did rain all the time, and it's just been so dry the last several years that it's kind of feel like, this is what I remember. This is nice.
Yeah,
I may need to get more hot cocoa.
I bought hot cocoa just on my last grocery trip. Some very tasty dark chocolate hot cocoa.
Ooh,
Swiss Miss. The good stuff.
Delightful.
But
yeah,
I've had to do that because we have had so much snow in the last month. I want to say we've gotten, in the last 30 days, we have probably gotten close to 30 inches of snow.
My parents got snow, like 3 or 4 inches, but again, Southern California. Yeah,
but they must be a little bit higher, like more in the hills.
Foothills.
Okay, but I know. Yeah. I heard that Tahoe's got like 90 feet of snow.
Yeah, some parts of the actual Bay Area got snow as well. Like not down where I am, more the northern bits, but that's another one that almost never happens.
Yeah.
So given how dry things have been, a little bit of wet weather is nice.
It's been just a
bit of wet weather is nice.
A weird year. It's in fact it's snowing right now here, but it's warm enough right now to where it's kind of sloppy and slushy. But the areas that have snow on them, it's accumulating there, but like not as much on the roads. But it's sloppy. It is what it is. What can you do?
But yeah, other than that, my usual nonsense of various games, actually managing to get back into reading books. So many librarians don't have time to read books.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a computer guy, not having time to play computer games.
Yeah. But yeah, nothing super special or crazy at the moment. Just kind of not exactly in a holding pattern, but just kind of your usual day-to-day stuff.
I get it. I completely understand. I guess I'm just getting through work stuff. But in 2 weeks, it'll be very nice because we'll be at Crystalline Resonance concert in Minneapolis. That's going to be next on Sunday, the 26th. So, I mean, we'll have another podcast before then, but I just want to make sure everybody is aware that 2 weeks after that, I will be with friends at Anime Detour. So there will be no podcast that weekend. So it'll be another month until we get a show, and then I can talk with you. I can say how the concert was and go from there. But beyond that, it's just getting through everything right now. And I think I want to put a link for anybody who is interested in seeing if the Crystalline Resonance tour is going by your area. They are currently touring right now in Florida, and they're going to be going across the U.S. over the next few days. Atlanta on the 13th, Washington, Philadelphia, New York. New York on St. Patty's Day. And I'm surprised they didn't go to Boston for that one, because that's the day after.
It does feel like we've kind of reached the point in the year. Like normally there's a bunch of announcements of upcoming stuff. There's other things like that, but it's kind of reached a point where in a little bit of a holding pattern waiting for the next one.
Mm-hmm. And I know there's still a couple of shows for Distant Worlds. The last couple shows for their 35th anniversary playlist that they put together for it. So
nice.
I really wish that they came back to Minneapolis. It's been 3 years since I got to see them, or has it been more than that? 4 years. I think it was 2019. Yes, 2019 when they were in Minneapolis last. So.
Oh God, 2019 was 4 years ago.
Isn't that just messed up?
What the hell?
Right.
Time keeps happening. Who allowed this?
Yeah. Tell them to stop it.
Seriously.
All right, but that's basically what's been going on with us. I want to throw out a huge thank you to our Patreon producers, Nicknar, Aurori, Ravenheart, and Mika. Let's go ahead and jump into some game and community news. I heard about this one from a few different sources, but we're going to be linking a Kotaku article here written by Ethan Gatch. Apparently, Square Enix's CEO Yosuke Matsuda is set to be replaced pending a shareholder agreement in their meeting in June by Takashi Kiryu is going to be his successor at this point.
It's technically the stuff hasn't gone through, but it seems like at this point that's largely a formality of it. It's been announced. They're making all things. Given that the incoming man's last name is Kiryu, the Yakuza memes came pretty much immediately.
But in a Square Enix have given some reasoning behind their potential switch here, and they say they're trying to they want to. The proposed change is intended to reshape the management team with the goal of adopting ever-evolving technological innovations and maximizing on the creativity of the company's group in order to deliver even greater entertainment to its customers around the world. A bunch of marketing BS right there.
That's not even marketing BS. That's corporate speak.
Okay,
this isn't
buzzwords.
Yeah. But yeah, this isn't marketing speak. This isn't something that's going to be like appealing to the customers. This is something for the shareholders.
Yep. But a lot of people were initially wondering if it's because of Matsuda's doubling down on NFTs. I mean, he's mentioned multiple times this year how there's going to be games coming out in like 2023 and 2024 that are going to be on the blockchain. And with the blockchain not panning out the way anybody had hoped or planned,
I mean, the concept of a blockchain by itself, if you're not involving this weird cryptocurrency stuff with it, it's a legitimately interesting one, but...
It is, but the fact that it's...
Then it got captured by the tech bros, like so many other things.
And it's just... It's proven to not be a very reliable and stable form of economy, basically.
And I mean, more than that, what I've generally been hearing is that the players, like the potential customers for these games, have made it very clear that they are not interested in this.
Yeah,
though again, this seems like something where it may be more of an attempt to appeal to shareholders. It's unclear whether whether Kiryu will be taking the company in that direction still. He's made some statements that suggest that he may also be interested in exploring some of those technologies.
Yeah, when I initially wrote down this article, there was some question on that, but I did hear from other sources stating that he is very similar minded to Matsuda on a lot of these technologies. So there's a good chance that they're going to be continuing on with it.
Which does make me wonder, since some of our initial speculation had been that it was because of the focus on these technologies that we certainly are not huge fans of. But if they're bringing in someone with similar attitudes, it does make me wonder what the reason for his replacement was.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of it has to do with there was a number of games that were released under Matsuda's watch that did not pan out the way they wanted, like the most recent one, Forspoken.
I did hear that had lower numbers.
It had a lot lower numbers than what people were hoping. It didn't score as well amongst reviewers. Also, games like Babylon's Fall, basically that online cooperative game where it has like a tower climb mechanics in it. It's basically they canceled it. They released it and then they closed it down like within like less than a year.
Yeah, they've had a number of games, seems like larger profile online games like that. First Soldier went through something similar, didn't it?
First Soldier didn't last very long. A lot of
it may just have been a vote of no confidence in his leadership in that case.
Yeah, and the direction that they went with a lot of their games didn't pan out as well as people had hoped. So he's been there for a while, so it's just maybe a time for an infusion of new ideas as far as the game side's going, but he still really wants NFTs apparently. Yeah.
Square Enix has been an institution of the industry for decades, but no one's immune from a fall.
No, I'm
And
wondering.
I'm sure that's on the minds of a lot of people.
Well, I'm wondering if a lot of this is going to end up putting Square Enix on the auction block, so to speak. With a larger company coming in to pick them up, with all of these different acquisitions going on right now. Square Enix divested a number of their Western studios earlier in the last year. The Activision Blizzard thing still going through potentially.
If they're left in a weakened financial position,
yeah. But kind of leading into the next story here, the Square Enix studio Luminous Productions is actually going to merge directly with Square Enix itself. They had split it off because that was supposed to be Tabata's studio. Was that
so it sounds like they're bringing it back in.
Yep, it's going to be fully reabsorbed into the fold. And this is a Gamatsu article written by Sal Romano. They're saying the merger is a part of the Square Enix Holdings efforts to further bolster the competitive prowess of the Square Enix Group's development studios, a goal set forth under its current medium-term business strategy, the company said in a press release. So they're trying to maybe bring it under more direct involvement with the rest of Square Enix's holdings at this point, to try and maybe shore up some of their finances, or just maybe have a little more control over what the studio releases potentially.
Hard to say what's going on at this point.
But they're saying that combining the two entities will further enhance the Square Enix Group's ability to develop high-definition games. Luminous Productions, that's the company that came up with the Luminous engine, developed Final Fantasy XV. I believe Forspoken was also one of their games, but maybe the lackluster performance of Forspoken is what is stemming them to bring them back into the fold.
It's possible that they're implying that they've got the visual chops, but not necessarily the gameplay behind it, and so this is an attempt to use those resources a little more effectively. I don't know. I am honestly just speculating on most of these points.
Exactly. I mean, I'm not an industry insider, so I don't really have much idea. But because it indirectly affects Final Fantasy, we could definitely see, because the Luminous engine has been used for previous games, and it kind of was developed after what was the engine that was used for 13?
Oh God.
But I want to say that it kind of had the Luminous engine was kind of like created because or from that or off of that engine potentially. So I don't remember.
I feel like it's interesting to think about
a long time ago.
Like people playing games paying a lot more attention to a lot of this stuff going on, to a lot more of how the sausage gets made. Mm-hmm. This was a type of thing that would have been completely opaque several years back, and now it's something where we're just getting like more and more of a look at the industry, what's going on.
It's nice to see actually that there's a little bit of that we can see, how things are being made, what is happening behind the scenes. Maybe it's because we're adults.
Best disinfectant.
Maybe we're just noticing more because we're adults and we kind of have a little bit more interest in those types of things. I don't know.
Yeah.
It means we're getting old, Seyrr.
What's actually... Oh, yeah. Okay. That is one that we're going to be talking about a little later, so I'll go ahead and save it till we get to that one.
All right. We have a lot of Final Fantasy XIV news coming up. So first thing I'm going to start with is a fun little one that I heard about. Apparently, there's going to be a Final Fantasy XIV and Puma crossover. I put a link to the US Puma store. There are about 16 different items for sale, including shirts, shorts, shoes, hoodies, and hats. There's no release date yet on the site as to or pricing, but some of the designs are quite interesting. I kind of like that Fat Cat baseball hat. And then they have a couple of different pairs of shoes, a Warrior of Darkness and a Warrior of Light themed sneaker. So if you're interested in those are coming up. And
Yeah,
go ahead.
I continue to be surprised by the number of brands that seem interested in doing a collaboration. Again, like going back a ways and thinking it was like, okay, it's this kind of niche hobby with a smaller community. And it's like, no, this is something that's broken out onto the big stage that's part of mainstream culture. I know it's been that way for a while, but it's still always kind of weird to me.
No, I fully understand. Geek culture is something that was very fringe for a very long time, and the fact that it's making its way into the forefront of a lot of pop culture things right now is it's just very odd for us because we're not used to
Yep.
being in the spotlight. We're used to kind of being in mom's basement.
Yeah, like there's a lot of people for whom that's become kind of an identity, and so it's not always easy to know how to handle this.
Fair. Next piece of info, we do have a new patch. Patch 6.35 is currently live in Final Fantasy XIV. We're not going to be going over much of that today, mainly because I haven't touched any of it, and anything that's in there would be potential spoilers since it's been out for less than a week. We will touch base a little bit more on this probably in the next episode.
Yeah, there's not too much crazy. Like in terms of content, you've got mostly Eureka Orthros, the new Manderville quests and weapons, the new tribal quests, and the Splendorous tools.
Yeah, I have heard though from people that they're not a fan of the glow of the Manderville weapons right now.
I've been hearing mixed opinions. Depends on exactly which weapon. I know I've at least two people I know like the new Sage version.
Okay.
But it does seem to be somewhat mixed.
One thing that is getting a lot of negative press though in the new patch is this item here, an insulting chair. Apparently that was been released. This article is from Kotaku.com and is written by CC Jiang. The Lalafell lifter is tall and pink. It is also clearly intended for Lalafell, a diminutive race with childish racial features, except not all players who pick Lalafell during character creation are looking to play as literal children. Since the lifter looks rather childish, these players felt that this was undignified to their fantasy race. I don't know how much of this is actually serious complaints, but I know the Reddit has been kind of, exploding with the Lala lifter.
I know that one of our former hosts, Chili, posted a rather impassioned Twitter thread. He is clearly not a fan of it. I've of course also seen the usual backlash of others saying that, hey, this feels like a bit of an overreaction, or questions about whether an interpretation is being read in that doesn't necessarily apply. Your usual impassioned and totally reasonable discourse.
Because gamers are totally 100%
It's because having it be an alliterative name of a song that, even if it's not childish, a lot of the more like playful aspects of Lalafell are things that they've tended to play up anyways. So calling it a Lalafell lifter does fit in with that, even if you're not specifically going for something that is childish. It is a tall chair. It's like a chair with a booster seat or a high chair. So the associations, it's so interesting to think about. You have this world, like looking at the sizing of the world. I really loved in Shadowbringers when you went to Tamra and Kamra and there were those buildings that only Lalafell could enter.
Yep.
And this whole like, okay, wait, we kind of have this world that's sized this way, and a bunch of different like races, species, whatever the terminology we want to use is, that have some pretty distinct differences in terms of size. And trying to have like one thing that the fact that they intermix as much as they do, given that, is fascinating.
Yep. But apparently people aren't liking this chair, so
I get how they can read it that way. Like, it does look a little bit like it might be a high chair.
yeah. Well, I don't know. Is it dyeable?
I believe it's dyeable. Let me check. I'm actually in game right now, so
Okay. Well, while you're looking at that, let's talk about an in-game event that's going to be ending here very soon, and I still need to do. Little Ladies Day. That event ends on March 15th. Apparently, you go through the quest, you will get a dance. There's a couple of housing items also available for purchase. Probably gonna be a cute little story like it has been in the past. So I will be jumping on to do that here in the next couple of days before it ends, because I have not yet missed an event, and I don't want it to start now.
It is dyeable. It looks like the base form is actually white.
Okay.
Also, let me check really fast, because I know some of the furnishings they added were part of the usual furnishing design contest.
Seeing if this was one of those or not.
Yeah, they usually have them divided up such that you can tell which it is, and I'm curious if this is one that was designed by a player and that they then decided to make real, or if it was one that the dev team came up with themselves. Usually there's a Okay, no, this does not look like one from the furnishing design contest.
All right, so this is the dev team's addition to the to the game.
And I could see wanting to have like a chair that would be a bit more helpful for elevated character. Like especially if you're trying to do, say, group shots around the table or other stuff like that, having some way to boost people up. I could see like the role play and G pose and like all the things relating to that, how they might be interested in that.
Okay.
Oh, what a mess.
It is what it is. Speaking of messes, FanFest. So, if you're listening to us live on the on Twitch, you have until Monday morning, I believe, to get your tickets. If you received an email. If you did not receive an email, and if there's anything left, the general sales period will start on Wednesday, March 15th at 9 a.m. Pacific time. But they do specify that it is possible that the entire stock of tickets may be sold during the player exclusive purchase period, and that no tickets will remain for the general sales period. So,
it's interesting. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so if you received a code to purchase tickets, I highly recommend that you either get them within the next couple of days, or you may not end up getting tickets at all.
It's interesting because previous fan fests, which had a lower capacity, I want to say like it was 4,000 and 9,000 tickets.
4,000 in 2014, 6,000 in 2016, and like 9,000 in 2018. Those are the numbers that I believe that I've heard.
Yeah, and this one the number that's been bandied around is 15,000, so significant increase.
People reached out to show clicks to find out how many tickets Square Enix put out there, and they said 15,000, which means 7,500 emails were sent out to people who entered the lottery.
Like, there were people at FanFest who were like, say, like, okay, we've got extra tickets. Does anyone want to buy them? So, given that we have that much of an increase, I am very curious to see how this will end up shaking out. The lottery, I think, honestly, was probably the fairest way to do it, given that there was going to be more demand than available. But it's also thrown a lot of the previous dynamics into chaos. I know a couple people who did win in the lottery, but are likely going to pass on the tickets because they can't guarantee that their friends are going to be able to be there, and getting to spend time with folks is a big part of the draw. Coupled with like, okay, if not for that, why don't I just watch the live letter?
Yep, a number of people had said that everybody in their static had entered the lottery, and maybe only one person got a code. So 2 out of 8 people get to go to FanFest. That's not going to be
fun for anyone.
No, and neither Seyrr nor myself received a code. Very few people. I don't know if anybody in our Discord actually did.
I want to say like one person did, but
I think they got that code from a friend, actually, potentially.
Yeah.
So, and I have been watching the Facebook groups. People are asking for +1 codes. If somebody has a ticket to spare or a code,
it would be interesting. It would be interesting to see how many of those requests are actually being satisfied.
Yeah. And
I certainly see plenty of people talking about looking for one, but I don't have a lot of good info about like how much of that is actually going through.
I have also heard that people are selling their codes to people who want them.
No surprise there.
I mean, I heard somebody bought another player's email code for $400 just to go buy $400 worth of tickets.
Yeah.
So their tickets cost $800 for 2.
they really wanted to attend, I guess.
Yeah. But
like
that's one of the things, negative pieces of the lottery system as well. You know, the fact that it's not locked down at that point, then people are selling their codes.
This is not a new problem. The concert tickets and the idea of scalpers and stuff like that, and the economics of it is a problem that's been researched for quite some time. It's more that this is not something that we've necessarily seen as much with gaming conventions before, but
no, I mean,
there's a lot of overlap between them conceptually.
Yeah, I mean, there's been, like you said, Comic-Con is one that has a lot of that.
Yeah. Like, as someone who finds economics fascinating, this is really interesting, and I'm kind of curious to see how it all shakes out. Yeah. As someone who wanted to go and hang out with the lore mongers, I'm thinking about maybe taking a vacation after summertime to visit them.
Yep, that could be fun.
In my particular case, the library summer camps would have intersected exactly with FanFest, so I was already a little stressed about how to make that work logistically.
Well, I mean, it would have just been having to offset 1 week potentially.
We've got a lot of camps to run. There would have been a lot going on.
I mean, I've even heard that...
Yeah, I will not worry about getting into the specifics of that, but it would have been involved.
That's fair. That this isn't the place for that. But I was just going to say, I even heard that Mr. Happy probably isn't going to go now because he didn't even receive a lottery invitation.
It does seem like the reports in here was that the usual stuff of things for content creators and the like, that they did not have those special invites set aside. That was just through that. It's unclear if they're going to be doing something about that later on. Or it's possible that they just have a different vision of what FanFest is for and what they want to accomplish with it at this point.
Though,
I don't know.
I do feel that it's a little bit short-sighted to not want to get the people who get the player base interested in the game, like the content creators, the news outlets, and
I mean, how
groups
much
like that.
How much of a difference does it make to actually have them at FanFest as opposed to just talking about it after they see the stream? I don't know.
That I mean, with the way the world changed in 2020, yeah, I mean, I can see, because everything did get more digital at that point. So I'm sure
I'm still slightly nervous about being in a big building with that many people.
Yeah, I mean, the fact of not having to worry about getting, sick, just con crud in general.
I can effectively attend FanFest in my bathrobe, which there's a non-trivial chance I would have done it anyway, but this way I don't get weird looks from security. Anyway.
We'll have to see. I mean, I might try to sign into the website on Wednesday just to see how busy it is and see if there's anything available.
This is a continuing developing story, so I look forward to seeing how it changes and evolves as time goes on.
Yeah, as much as I would love to see all of you guys at FanFest, I'm just not sure who's going to be there. And I'm not sure that I really want to gamble on, not getting to have Seyrr there or other friends there, and just not having as much fun as I could have, doing something else. So.
Everyone come over to my place. We'll get ramen.
That's a long way to go, though, too. It's actually further to go.
We'll get several ramens.
I don't know. We may end up taking a trip to the Badlands or something instead. It's something that my girlfriend and I have been talking about, and just trying to figure out when to do it was one of those things. But we'll have to see.
I was looking at going out east to visit my aunt and meet up with a couple other folks there, which I could do at a less sweltering time of year.
Exactly. This next bit of info now is jumping into Final Fantasy XVI news. Apparently there was Game Informer had an interview with Yoshida and the team, and they said that Final Fantasy XVI isn't turn-based because of games like GTA. Like I said, this is a GameInformer.com article written by Wesley LeBlanc.
This was a really fascinating article. Yoshida talked about when creating FF16 that you can't ignore all the data from all the games that have come before. But it's become something where these mainline Final Fantasies, they are massive undertakings. Once upon a time, you'd be having them come out once a year or every other year.
Yeah.
And now it's something where you've got development costs that were cited as upwards of 100 million.
I mean, that's
year.
big. That's blockbuster movie types of budgets right there.
Yeah, years of development. And he pointed out in order to recoup that development cost, you need as many people playing your game as possible. So a lot of the older fans are used to what Final Fantasy had in the past, but a lot of the younger players have never played a Final Fantasy game. Again, if you've got something where there's like 5 or 6 years releases between games, this could be something where like you go through your formative years and there's one Final Fantasy game in there maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got a bit of a different relationship with it. Mentioning that they grew up playing first-person shooters or games like Grand Theft Auto, where you press a button and something happens immediately. A bit less of this like traditional turn-based style.
Yep. I mean, and that really came into being when you look at Final Fantasy XI, the online game. You had to keep it more real time because you had so many other people out there that you had to make sure that it was all
doing
server
it as an
clock
online
based.
Yeah, doing it as an online game, keeping it turn-based would have just been infeasible.
Yep, and then that spread over to 12, which kept similar mechanics to 11, just on an offline version. And then 13 kind of went back, but not really. And then we had...
And there's always been the active time, well, not always, but ever since 4, there's been the active time battle system to add that kind of quasi-turn-based, quasi-real-time. But it was something where once that initial ground had been broken, a lot more of the stuff started to explore and work in that more real-time, less turn-based universe.
And then we look at the last 2 big games released for Final Fantasy XV and 7 Remake. Both of those are... basically they're action RPGs.
Yep. Yoshida also talked a little bit about what the future could potentially hold. He mentioned that he doesn't know if their team is going to be doing Final Fantasy XVII. He said probably not, but there's still the possibility out there, and so he didn't want to definitely rule that out at this point. But that if it was something where they would if they were considering going back to pixel graphics, that might make it easier to go back to something turn-based.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of interesting to think about like the games in this universe, whether you have something that's more retro style where it's a bit more understandable and a bit more in the genre of it, versus this more like high definition polygonal model, yada yada yada, where you do expect a bit more of that real-time movement.
Yeah. I wonder if a lot of that's going to be based off of how popular or how well the pixel remasters sold and will sell when they get released on console now next month.
Yeah, I imagine because you've got like we talked a bit earlier about how you've got people who've been playing these games for decades, gamers who are a bit older, younger gamers who need to be brought into the fold, because if you're doing these big blockbuster AAA titles, you need as big an audience as you can manage. You can't just keep bringing in the same people as before. So it'll be interesting to see how the series evolves and changes with that.
Absolutely. I just thought it was kind of neat that he speculated a little bit on 17 on that too. So
yeah. Once again, Yoshida pulling back the curtain a little bit, which again for the games industry has historically been such a rarity that I'd love to. You really get a sense of just how much he's like really thinks about and considers these things like as an art medium, as a business venture. We are very lucky to have this man, however it works out.
Exactly, because he's opened the door so we can kind of look into the candy factory and see how the candy is made.
Where are the Oompa Loompas in this increasingly tortured metaphor?
They're the devs.
Oh, someone draw fan art of Koji as an Oompa Loompa. There is no way this can backfire.
Dippity doo.
Oh, or Foxclaw. They've given him enough indignities. They can just do an Oompa Loompa now.
Just dress him up as an Oompa Loompa on the next live stream.
Did you see the one of him doing the Loperit emote? He looked so resigned at the end of it.
Well, I didn't see the emote, but I saw him in dressed up as a Loperit, and that was kind of horror inducing, really.
they had a promotional thing for 635 where they had the in-game Loporits showing off an emote you can emote with them flapping their ears, and then they had Foxclaw in the Loporit cosplay doing the same thing, and then walking off the camera looking kind of like he did not seem to be having a great time with this.
I think he probably actually was. He just was kind of doing his thing.
He may have been doing a bit.
Yeah. I mean,
the things one does when one is a community leader and manager.
Yeah, and he's got a good sense of humor. You gotta love that.
But I could absolutely see playing it up.
Yeah, I bet that's probably what it was. Hopefully, but regardless, that kind of covers the gaming community news. This next bit now is going to be we're gonna finally finish the Final Fantasy XIII original soundtrack with Disc 4.
Oh, we've been waiting a while on this one.
We have, because we had a lot of stuff come up, and now we can finally finish this disc
Real
out.
life writes the script.
A little bit. Let's go ahead and jump into our first song. This is a character theme. This is actually Fang's theme. So this plays as the background theme for when Lightning's party is on board the Palamecia, as well as during the FMV cutscene of the party's arrival to Grand Pulse. It's really a upbeat song.
It's energetic. It feels a little more like your traditional Final Fantasy tune, less of those technological elements that we saw in a lot of the Cocoon characters, which Fang being, of course, from Grand Pulse.
It makes sense at that point because they're not a technological place.
Yeah, having contrasting music as a way to contrast between characters, and Fang is definitely the character of the party who stands apart the most from the others.
Well, I mean, Vanille does as well, but Fang is she's more kind of holding herself in reserve, so to speak.
Yeah, like but Vanille also makes efforts to get to know them, to support them. Fang had tended to hold herself at a bit of a remove.
Which, I mean, when you're not sure of what's going on here, and you don't quite trust these people that are kind of thrust in your lap, so to speak, you kind of have to be careful.
Given her position, it's absolutely understandable. It's just interesting to see how much contrast there is between this more, like, as I said, kind of classic Final Fantasy orchestral piece and the stuff that we get for the other characters.
Yeah, and if you kind of listen to it, you can get a little bit of kind of an airship feel of it too.
Yeah.
It's got that just real booming kind of open air sound.
Yeah, kind of fitting for the big open environment of Grand Pulse.
Yep.
Also, among the various eidolons of the characters, Fang's Gestalt mode is the one that transforms into an actual airplane glider, the flying one. Everyone else being various types of ground vehicles, or a fortress in one case.
It's a nice song. Let's go ahead and jump forward into our next one. This is called Terra Incognita. The literal translation from Japanese, Tairiku Guran Parasu. Sorry, that might be totally slaughtering it. Apologies, I'm not Japanese. Literal translation is Foreign Continent Grand Pulse. And this plays during Vanille's narration of Grand Pulse. Big surprise, right?
Yeah. Grand Pulse throughout the game has been hyped up as literal hell on earth, this terrifying place that seeks to destroy Cocoon and that the people of Cocoon couldn't possibly survive on. And so when we actually get a glimpse of it, where we've been set to again expect like this horrific type thing, and we instead see verdant plants, trees all over the place. We see a place that's bursting with life and vitality, wild and unconstrained, but not necessarily something that we would see as hellish. except perhaps in the fact that it is distinctly less civilized.
When I got to Grand Pulse in my first playthrough, I thought it was kind of a neat place. Because everything else was, basically the long drawn out hallway. There was really there was not much exploration when it came to Cocoon or the areas up there, but with Grand Pulse, there were a lot of pretty wide open areas, like the Arkelt Steep was, and especially where you had to fight Longui.
Yep. Like, I agree with you that that's what it was. I don't necessarily like it as much in there because I felt like things got a bit muddled, and it was only once we got out of there and back to Cocoon that the story really started getting proper flow again. But people come to, as we established talking earlier about the Final Fantasies, a lot of people come to these games with different expectations and things they're looking for.
I kind of like more open world style games, which, most of the Final Fantasies really haven't been, but
yeah.
I mean, we had the world exploration on a lot of the games, like 7, 6.
Yeah, there usually was at least some exploration element, and 13 really minimized that, which again, it was a stylistic and storytelling choice, but one that, as we've mentioned before, was a little controversial.
Yeah. I mean, even 12, didn't really have. I mean, while it had kind of large zones you could explore, it wasn't open world by any means, because there was a lot of different zone lines that you had to cross through. But
right.
it was just kind of nice to get that open area that we could sit and explore, and it's great for your farming, for leveling up.
Yep. And whether you like or hate it, it is a very clear and pronounced difference from how Cocoon has been. And so setting up that contrast between these two not necessarily civilizations, but these two places and their associated things, that just really heightens the difference between them.
And Triss in chat is asking which Cid was in 13, and that was Cid Raines, correct?
That was Cid Raines, cavalry commander who was found to have been controlled by the Fal'Cie and rebels against the focus he was given by attacking the party. Black hair, white cape, transforms into the partially crystalline thing when he's fighting the party.
Yeah, because he ends up becoming what do they call them again?
Seath.
Seath, yes. He gets
he
kind of a Seath
to transform.
Yep. So that's it. And yes, he kind of was a little bit one of those guys you didn't quite know if you wanted to trust him or not, but you kind of kept him in your periphery.
I mean, like, he was a Cid. Generally, I mean, 12 was you did fight 12 Cid, though he wasn't necessarily opposed to the party, but was trying to set them up on a particular path because it's an Evil East game and thus everyone is manipulating everyone.
Yeah, it's not like most games where Cid was actually either an actual party member or somebody who's there to help you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for the early stuff, Cid was generally on your side. Later ones have had Cid become a more complex character.
All right, let's go ahead and jump into our next theme. The Arkelt Steppe. This is the background theme to the Arkelt Steppe. The big open area of Grand Pulse. I liked it because there was a lot of different little caves you could find and explore. There was a number, like the Cactuar quests were here as well, correct?
Yep, lots of various sea stone quests that were essentially hunt marks, hunting down various things and defeating them.
And then, yeah, like the big one that I recall is, one of the kind of end game marks, the Longui. Just a huge dinosaur, brontosaurus kind of thing that took for freaking ever to take down. But that was such a battle.
Yep. But yeah, you've got that motif of the promise again, but done in this kind of like wide open, sweeping something that's again fitting with this very open world aspect of it.
Like I said, this is when the game jumped down to here, it expanded everything, and I just felt, more at home. But like I said, everybody plays the game a little bit differently.
Yeah.
It's just a really nice theme.
Yeah, of the Grand Pulse areas, the Arkhild Steppe is definitely the most wide open and sprawling. A lot of the other areas, even though there is a bit more exploration ability, there still are some constrained sections. There's some bits that you have to solve your way through, and the Arkhild Steppe was just very big, way less directed.
It was kind of nice because then they had the village down there as well. Yeah. That you got quests from, and
Yep. Began with a P. I remember it became much more Padra? I believe it was Padra. Became much more of a presence in 13 too, but that's a story for another time.
I know there was a few quests that came out of here that we had to do, so.
Yeah. Lots of ruins of ancient civilizations, surprisingly advanced civilizations, given what we saw of their ruins. Which, given what we had been told about what life on Pulse was like and the idea that it was this wild, uncivilized place, having these more advanced ruins started raising some questions about what the reality of the situation had been.
Right. Now, this is the reason why I liked Grand Pulse so much. The Chocobo theme.
Yeah, previously we had Chocobos of Cocoon, and
now
so
we
now
have
we could...
Chocobos of Pulse. It's a very different Chocobo theme from what we're used to, but I still like it. It's
got a bit of a big
upbeat.
band feel.
Yeah, jazzy, big bandy. There we get into it. Da, 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 da.
Oh. Does this have the right beat for salsa?
I don't know, but it definitely has a lot of syncopation to it. Maybe that's kind of what's leading into that.
Like salsa, samba, cha-cha, something in that vein. Feel like you could do a good dance routine to this.
No, I like your idea of that it's more big band. Because you got your clarinet here, or your oboe, or whatever it is. It's a woodwind.
Yep.
So that's why I think it's more big band style than it would be like a Latin music style.
Yeah.
But it's still, I would call this a bop.
Oh yeah, 100%.
We're not going to play all 4 minutes of it, but it's a lovely theme to listen to.
It is kind of fun to compare it to the Chocobos of Cocoon, which was a super energetic, but also feeling a little more produced. It's the one that's playing at this amusement park. It's this kind of like simulated reality. And then you have this more freewheeling kind of energetic. Yeah, just again, exploring that contrast between Cocoon and Pulse through the music.
Mm-hmm. All right, we can go ahead and move on a little bit. We all love the song.
I should be drinking a fruity cocktail while I listen to this.
Well, I have a fruity Mountain Dew. Does that work?
Yeah, sure, good enough. Pour some vodka in it.
We'll do that later. All right. Our next theme. Hey, hit the button there. There we go. This is for the Yashas Massif.
Oh yeah, we got some bossa nova going here.
It's a little bit more subdued, but still kind of a nice... It gets you moving.
Yeah. Bossa nova is often the type of music that I'll put on when I want something nice and relaxing, but still not completely put me to sleep to have going while I work. It is also 100% the type of music where I feel like I should have a nice fruity cocktail. Something rum-based. Like, this is the, okay, you're gonna enjoy the tropical island rhythms sort of thing.
Yeah, this would be something you could kind of hear playing, from a tiki hut while you're sitting in a beach chair with a frou-frou drink with an umbrella in it.
Yeah, given that, again, I think Yachas Massif is actually one of the areas you arrive at before you get to the Arkhild Steppe proper. Having, again, been told all the stuff about how Pulse is this hell on Earth, this wild hellscape.
And we get this nice place.
Yeah.
Also,
the sun is shining, the trees are, the flowers are blooming.
Yeah. I was also going to say, in Final Fantasy XIII-2, this plays in Academia at 4XXAF.
Yep. If we get into 13.2, we'll talk a bit more about it, but that's the indicator of the alternate history, which for Academia, its alternate history at 400 AF is a much more pleasant one than the original history.
Oh, yeah. Because, a lot of the...
we'll get into that at another time.
Yeah, which, Seyrr, just to put a note out into your head, we're going to have to sit and figure out what we're going to cover next for our music shows.
Yep.
So.
Yep, we'll talk about that.
All right, let's go ahead and jump.
For the moment, we've got that nice, relaxing bossa nova.
Yep, and it's Memories of Happier Days, which is what this song is called. This plays during Fang and Vanille's reunion on the Palamecia, and later during Vanille's flashback of the 9th day. It is an arrangement of Vanille's theme. What's kind of neat is, we'll talk a little bit of the Final Fantasy XIII-2 aspect of this song. It plays in Sunlith Waterscape at 300 AF when Sarah is telling Snow and Noel about the time she turned to Crystal, and when Vanille and Fang appeared to help Sarah escape her dream in the void beyond.
Yeah. So because it's not immediately obvious from the description, the 9th day, we've talked, of course, how there's this framing device of the 13 days before the game started, kind of this, like, that we get bits and pieces of what happened before. And the 9th day is, in this particular case, a scene where Vanille ends up meeting Sarah. Sarah, I believe at this point has undergone the... I believe she's undergone the l'Cie trans. Let me check
her crystallization.
She's been marked by the fal'Cie.
Okay, so she became a l'Cie at that point.
Yes. And so both these two women who are both facing very uncertain futures, neither of them knows about. I think Vanille at some point figures out that, oh, she's the one who's responsible for what happened to Sarah, but at the same time can't bring herself to tell her. But the two of them sharing this moment of connection as kindred spirits in terms of being thrown into this unfamiliar situation, not being sure what to do next. Like, given all that we had seen before, this moment of, like, unexpected meeting and bonding between the two, it adds an unexpectedly sweet note to our understanding of the 13 days before. And so having this tune with that is a really nice way to underscore that.
And it's just a pretty little song.
Yeah. Yeah, for someone like Vanille who's been through a lot, who at some times is just seeking escape from it all, possibly through death, having this pleasant memory, this thing that she can look back on, whether it's this time she spent with Sarah, whether it's her relationship with Fang, it's a moment of respite for her.
Yep.
Which is why, like, having it as this arrangement of Vanille's theme with a bit of this, like, kind of brighter feel to it. Really nice choice there. I'm a fan.
Just a nice, soft revision of it and thinking about happier days.
Mm-hmm.
So our next theme brings us to Sulia Springs. There is a little bit of vocals in this that are performed by Mina. She sings a lot of the vocalized pieces within Final Fantasy XIII.
We've got another arrangement of Vanille's theme here, but a little bit more of a minor key.
Yeah, anything with this type of the vocalization is a little bit more on the minor key, a little more on the, kind of adding some layers of tension.
Yeah, a little bit of that unearthly feel as well.
Mm-hmm.
In 13, this gets used for the Sulia Springs and the beginning of the Fault Warrens. And it
Which
plays
I think it's a cave system that connects two areas of Grand Pulse, the Steppe and the Fault Warrens, right?
Yep.
I had to remember because it's been so long since I played the game.
Yep. The Fault Warrens being a branching dungeon, so some of that tension aspect makes a bit of sense. It also gets used for Erba music in 13 too. So having again those arrangements of Vanille's theme, but heightening that tension, that uncertainty, in some cases that otherworldliness as we're going into these kind of deep dungeon things, or the Sulia Springs being underground, this underground waterway. We're again taking that pulse aspect and highlighting a bit more of the alien and unfamiliar bits.
Yep. It's slightly, how am I want to word this? It's a little bit of discord within the melody to the, the backing track. So it's
which again feels intentional to create that tension, as you mentioned.
A little bit of an upsettedness, yeah.
Yeah.
Not a word I know, but you know what I'm trying to say. All right. I'm going to go ahead and move on because our next theme is from Taejian's Tower. Which this is a pretty spooky kind of labyrinth dungeon. This also plays in the Pulse Vestige after Lightning and Saz encounter ghouls and during the first enemy encounter in the 5th arc. So this is definitely a kind of a step up, battle theme that's got adding a lot of tension to it.
Yeah, usually upon, you've arrived in an unfamiliar place, something where there's that element of danger. Taejian's Tower is, with Grand Pulse, you had a lot of that kind of wild nature. You had some of that, bright and bursting with vitality. But Taejian's Tower is a bit more of an alien location. It's this ancient ruin, strange machines throughout. Filled with Seath, of course, as well as various mechanical monsters. And so in the midst of this, what feels like wild and reclaimed land, you have this kind of not technological and mechanical in the same way as Cocoon, but something that doesn't necessarily fit in with what you would have expected.
Yeah, this is where a lot of those mechanical monsters for those who play 14 and didn't play 13, if you go up to Azizla, a lot of those monster models are used up there.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Clockwork Knight, the Clockwork whatever is up there. They are featured in this area of 13. In this, I think this is where they started, wasn't it? I don't think they were in 12.
Yeah, I believe that was the first use of those models. And that's where we're seeing that, Pulse had some technology, some of this kind of stuff in the same way. Again, stuff that's in ruins and that's being used.
Well, yeah. I mean, Pulse had its own Fall Sea. So, I mean, there had to be something, that created them.
Yeah. Yeah, the tower itself has some interesting stuff going on, and eventually ends up being the bridge to, I believe we'll be getting to this music soon. Yes.
Yep. But our next theme is Dust to Dust.
Yes. After completing the tower, the upper portions of it fall over and create a ramp leading us down to the water's edge and to... We have our music started yet?
Yeah, it's playing.
Yeah, very quiet.
Here, I'll give it a little bit more because it.
There we go.
The music was very quiet, but then when the vocals kick in, these are vocals performed by Matsue Hamazu, or Hamauzu, I believe.
There we go. So yes, although it plays at a couple different points relating to it, this would be best known as the musical theme for the village of Erba.
Yes. It first plays when Fang talks about her past in Palampolum, but also when the party views Erba from the top of Tajin's tower.
Erba, of course, is the hometown of Fang and Vanille.
Erba de Fang and Erba de Vanille. Thank you very much.
Erba de Vanille and Erba Yun Fang.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which is, knowing that and getting kind of like, okay, their naming scheme where it starts with like their village, then perhaps a family name and a personal name. Again, in contrast to the way the rest of our party members have, where they've got their personal name and then a family name after.
But because this is a village that has basically been abandoned for thousands of years, it's kind of got that ghostly, ethereal kind of feel to it, and a little bit melancholic because it's a little bit of a mixed feeling with their homecoming, so to speak.
Yeah. Like, it's a homecoming, but it's not a happy one. There's definitely a mournful aspect to this.
No, but realistically, this is the homecoming theme. It's the little translation to this theme that is in English called The Road Home. So this is a little bit more upbeat.
Yeah. Yeah, it's played when the party boards a ship that will be returning to Cocoon. So it's kind of interesting, even though Erba was kind of the hometown, the home village, like that music, I believe it even plays during the battle, so you never really escape that whole like feeling of loneliness, of loss.
Yep. So I think the homecoming is speaking more to the Cocoon crew versus Fang and Vanille.
Yeah, this does have some elements of Vanille's theme as well, suggesting that, like, in some ways it's kind of Vanille going, because her old home isn't really a home anymore. There's very little left. There's memories, she talks about some of it, but you don't get the impression that she would be looking to settle down there again. And for her, it almost feels like home is where her friends are, where the rest of the party is. And also where Fang is, but Fang's in this for the long haul as well.
Yep. All right, our next theme is called Start Your Engines.
We couldn't have our return to Cocoon without a big set piece. And in this case...
it's a FMV cutscene of the party with their Eidolons in Eden.
Eden is the capital of Cocoon. Yeah. And in this case, the people of Cocoon are having the kind of the opening day race for their equivalent, what seems like their equivalent of the Indy 500. Big vehicle race. Sid Raines is there to give a speech. All sorts of stuff going on with that. And then this big spectacle and to-do interrupted by the ship carrying our party arriving on the racetrack, sending things into chaos.
As it does.
Yep. That chaos only being made worse when, after pulling off a heroic rescue, Snow raises a fist in celebration, and all the cameras zoom in on the Lassie brand on his arm. And to which he gives a sheepish, should have covered that up.
Which then brings all of the military, which then brings out the Eidolons.
Yep.
Which then, yeah. It's a pretty crazy scene, but it's classic Snow. What do you expect?
Yeah. mean, realistically, they weren't going to be. They appear in the middle of a racetrack. They actually had brought out their eidolons before that as part of the attempting to avert the unfolding disaster on the racetrack.
Yeah.
And so at first it just started like, okay, here are these people with these amazing powers where people could make, okay, like these are things granted them by the Cocoon Fal'Cie. But once they see that brand, yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and jump forward to
lots
Eden.
of fun action sequences, all the usual.
This is Eden Under Siege. It is the background theme for our time in Eden. So as you can see, we don't have a good, impact on our with our visit.
Yeah, I mean, these are the Pulselessy who have come to attack. Which again, we've got like so much fear and loathing of Pulse built up over all this time, and then we have our team arriving and assaulting the capital, the seat of the Fal'Cie's power. We see lots of stuff to suggest that Eden itself is a gorgeous place, another techno-utopia. Lots of good stuff for that, but we're coming in as fugitives who are punching through to the most central part of government to have a little talk.
Probably not the best time to be here.
There was never going to be a good time for it.
Well, I mean, maybe before they became l'Cie.
Oh, yes. If we had gotten to visit before then, we probably could have enjoyed things a bit more. Maybe done some shopping, enjoyed the views.
Maybe gotten some gelato or something.
Oh man, I could go for some gelato.
Or a nice boba.
Oh,
you hate it when I do that.
Place, so
you hate when I do that to you, don't you?
I'm checking when my local boba place is closed.
Well, while he checks that out, let's go ahead and check out The Cradle Will Fall. It will start, I guarantee it. It's a slow build.
Yeah. The cradle in this case refers to Orphan's Cradle, Orphan being the Fal'Cie that is at the center of Eden and, in fact, the linchpin for all of Cocoon.
It's very discordant. This is probably one of the weirdest themes in any Final Fantasy game.
Yeah. There are plenty of Final Fantasies where the final dungeon ends up being some kind of strange metaphysical unreal space, and that's no exception here.
But a lot of times the themes are a little bit... I was going to say, a lot of times the themes for those are a little bit more melodic. This one is very, very different.
Yeah.
It's very atmospheric. Now we get a little bit of a beat instead of just, turbulence or what have you.
Yeah, this space is actually an alternate dimension that's created by Eden as like this place where Orphan is kind of stored or resides. It's actually just one very large room dimensional space that reconfigures itself multiple times as you make your way through it.
We're inside a giant bag of holding.
Something like that.
I mean, because basically a D&D bag of holding is just a little pocket dimension inside of a bag.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we enter here. It's a metaphysical space outside of Eden.
While also being at the center of Eden.
Exactly. It's like the TARDIS. It's bigger on the inside. That'd be about probably the easiest way to explain it, because isn't that kind of basically what the TARDIS is too? It's a metaphysical space that kind of made its home inside of a police box.
I mean, like, once you start getting into weird dimensional space things, all the rules are off.
Yeah. But it develops into a really interesting sounding theme. Like I said, very atmospheric to start with, but then it kind of gets a little bit more spooky as it develops its feel. It definitely takes time to grow.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and jump into the next one. This plays during the first battle, again, a battle against Orphan in its first form, and it's called Born Anew. Literally translated into birth.
Yeah. A lot of the elements of it are reminiscent of the battles against Bartandalus, and Bartandalus is in fact as sort of a support subordinate to Orphan. So we've got that kind of dramatic, almost religious organ music being adapted into this kind of like, it's fascinating, especially given the cosmology of the series, to have this thing that is called Orphan, given that the Falsi see themselves as abandoned children of a god. Yeah, there's a lot going on with the naming here.
Yeah, and the fact that this is basically the final boss.
Oh yeah,
or one of its forms of the final boss. You have to get your Latin singing with your very, your organs and very One-Winged Angel theme.
Yeah, it's an RPG final boss. You got to pull out all the stops.
Exactly.
Quite possibly literally on the organ.
I mean, it doesn't slap as much as One-Winged Angel, but it's got those vibes.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing is as epic as the battle music against Sephiroth. So the Sephiroth theme in 14 is pretty good too. It's just not on this level.
Yeah. Yeah, as usual, you've got some integrations of other themes throughout the game. This moment itself is a culmination of the entire Falsi plan. It's fascinating to see, and like it's been pointed out that the party, the L'Cie, have been dancing to the Falsi's tune all this time, and at the same time rebelling against it. There's a fascinating duality going on,
which culminates in this next theme. This is called Sinful Hope. We'll let it build up here a little bit. Now, one of the big themes in 13 was, Fang was rebelling against becoming Ragnarok and destroying, Pulse and Cocoon. Because that was her focus, was to destroy Cocoon, I believe, wasn't it?
Yep. Yeah, the focus that both of them had received was to transform into Ragnarok and destroy Cocoon.
It's at this point that Fang transformed into an incomplete Ragnarok. After they battle Orphan and take its forms down. But
so this is actually after Orphan. Oh, there's so much going on here.
There is a lot.
Originally Fang and Veal were supposed to together become Ragnarok, and in the, I believe it's 600 years ago, Vanille had refused to join in, and so Fang transformed into an incomplete Ragnarok, and so was not able to destroy Cocoon, but did do some serious damage to it. We've talked before about the things like the Hanging Edge, all the various damage that's seen to Cocoon.
But
and so yeah,
it's at this point where the crystal tower that is holding Cocoon up, it gets shattered.
So you're kind of conflating some stuff here.
I'm trying to remember it all. It's been a decade.
Cocoon is floating in midair thanks to effectively being powered by the fal'Cie, and Orphan in particular. One of the goals of the fal'Cie was for Orphan to be destroyed, which would send Cocoon plunging to Earth, killing everyone. Something that they believed that massive loss of life would throw open the door to the afterlife far enough that they could go and get their the mother that they had lost, the mother deity. It's this entire thing. Like, that's the entire thing driving this. But so with Orphan defeated, Cocoon is beginning to fall, and so Fang transforms into Ragnarok once again, but this time it's less about wanting to destroy Cocoon and more about this being the only thing that will have enough power to save it.
Okay, that's right.
Yep, and this time around, Vanille ends up joining her in these efforts, and there's a lot going on in the scene, but the culmination of it has the two of them creating this massive growth of crystal that effectively catches Cocoon and has it sitting atop a gigantic pillar of crystal that envelops it. The logo of the game, which is has been unclear for pretty much the whole thing, is in fact this moment of Ragnarok grappling Cocoon and forming this support for it.
Yep. With Fang and Vanille then in the center of it, holding it all together.
Yes, and we do get to see a thing deep within the crystal pillar of the two of them kind of reunited in their crystal sleep. This big thing of having been forced to dance to the fal'Cie's tune all this time and rebelling against it. In this case, like Fang, who has tried to rebel against this stuff this whole time, rebels against it by saving Cocoon. Something that she, like, seeing her as the person who takes, one of the people who takes that upon herself, something you never would have expected. Most of the rest of the party was invested in it, but Fang had made it clear all along that she didn't really care about saving Cocoon. And so the fact that she's one of the ones who takes this burden upon is this really breaking free of all of the stuff that had been imposed by the higher powers around them.
All right. Our next theme,
anyways.
This one is called Fabula Nova Crystallis. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have heard those words before. That was supposed to be this entire huge thing of Final Fantasy games were supposed to be based around the mythos of 13. You know, there's supposed to be 13 verses, which ended up turning into 15, right? I believe.
Yeah. So there was 13 verses and 13 Agito. 13 Agito would eventually become Type 0.
Type 0, yeah.
And 13 verses would become 15.
Yep. Whereas the Agito game, I think Type 0 still kind of is within the Fabula Nova Crystallis world, whereas 15 was broken out of that. Well,
yes and no. It uses a lot of the same terms, but it kind of uses them differently. It has different setup. It's unclear how much of that is because of its being retooled as a different thing, or how much of it was just hey, we're going to have these games that have these kind of shared elements, but explore different aspects of them and use them in different ways. But Type 0 does have l'Cie, has several of the other elements involved with it as well. But again, the side note, Fabula Nova Crystallis, one way to translate that would be the new story of the crystal.
Also, the new Final Fantasy web's news site, Nova Crystallis, took their name from this.
Yep.
Which we get a lot of our information from them, so thank you very much, Nova Crystallis.
We love you. But yeah,
this plays in the Pulse Vestige when Seyrr is crystallized, during Snow's flashback on the 7th day when he promised to help Seyrr, as well as during Vanille's flashback of the first day, and in Orphan's cradle when the party recalls various flashbacks of their journey while Orphan tortures Fang.
It's kind of, hey, here is this story of the crystal. Of like, in this case, this kind of this crystal, I'm trying to figure out how best to describe it. I guess you could, probably best way would be like the crystal pillar that supports Cocoon, that kind of starts this new era, because with the defeat and destruction of Orphan, Orphan was kind of this linchpin for all of the fal'Cie of Cocoon. So we're kind of this story of this new beginning for Cocoon, this new world that will be with the people free of fal'Cie influence and having to support themselves. And having as like this new story of the crystal.
Yep. And you'll notice it probably sounded very familiar to you because it is an arrangement of The Promise.
Oh, got that leitmotif again.
Yep. Let's go ahead and jump to our next theme. This is called Miracles. It's at this point, this is playing when Lightning, Snow, and Saz and Hope revert from their Seath forms.
Yeah, as part of the battle against Orphan, their l'Cie brands had been triggered, transforming them into Seath, partly as a way to force Vanille and Fang to do what Orphan wanted. See, like okay, I will torture and destroy your friends until you submit.
But then when they end up saving Cocoon, their focus changes, and they revert back and they get a new focus. And this also is playing during end credits.
Yeah, like they kind of break out of it, a thing that again was previously thought to be impossible. And the fact that they declare a focus, not one given to them by the fal'Cie, but one they've taken on for themselves. Kind of taking this entire structure that they've lived under and claiming it for themselves, saying that they're going to set their own way that they live instead of having their fate dictated by outside forces. Like, in terms of the symbolism, it's great. I love it.
And this contains elements of the Prelude and the Promise, so.
Yeah, we've got the Promise showing up in all sorts of bits around here.
Well, I mean,
it is kind of the overarching theme.
It is the 13 theme.
Yep.
All right, let's go ahead and jump into the next theme called Focus. So it's at this point this song is playing when the group's brands, they turn from that black tattoo to white right before they fight Orphan in its true form.
Again, a bit of that like rebellion, claiming this thing for their own.
This is when they're basically fighting against the system, and they're like, no, we're gonna do this our way.
Yep. This element has come up a number of times throughout, and it's gonna keep coming up.
Yep, fighting against fate. It seems to be a thing that Final Fantasy does, isn't it?
Yeah. It is in particular the central theme of this one, the idea of like, how do you handle the situation where you've been given this terrible fate, where, yeah. And a lot of the various side quests and the like are themed around that as well. How others, like a lot of the Seath who came before them, how they handle this idea of being cursed with this fate. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All
right. And then as they get into the final battle against Orphan, this theme starts to play. This is called Nascent Requiem. And if you listen close, you're going to hear some elements from Vanille's theme in it as well. It's very boisterous for a final battle theme.
Yeah.
Really all over the place.
I was thinking about that. I was thinking stuff like, for instance, Chrono Trigger, where you kind of have this like tune that's also all over the place as you're like transferring through all these different ages the party's been in. Kind of like, hey, here's this big culmination of all the stuff we've been through in our journey.
But if I recall, it actually fits very well into the battle, so.
Yeah. And it's kind of like a lot coming together all at one point.
Though I will say it's probably not one of my favorite final battle themes.
It's not bad, but it's not as memorable.
No, it's the it doesn't have that hook that really gets you in, you know, like the Xbox Bing Cherries. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and skip up to the.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Like
go ahead.
those discordant elements do a lot for setting the mood, but it also makes it difficult to like sing along or to really like. It's something that's intended to throw you off balance, I feel like a little bit, just to represent some of the stuff going on in this battle. But that also makes it something that's a little bit easier to have it be a bop, for instance. That's really gonna stick in the head.
Yep. So I mean, it's great for the music for doing it what it needs to do in the game. It's just not something that I would sit and listen to on a just a random Sunday afternoon.
Pretty much.
I'm gonna go ahead and jump to the next theme. This is called Determination. So this plays during the ending FMV when Fang and Vanille transform into full Ragnarok to crystallize Cocoon and save it from falling into Grand Pulse.
Yep.
So it's at this point after the planet basically starts to crash down that they go through everything that Seyrr talked about earlier.
Yeah. Like, the title itself, Determination, again, with so many of these things before, we'd seen people who are essentially going along from one thing to another, kind of because they were told, because it's the order. But this one is more one that they are doing of their own will, rather than because they are being told they have to by an outside force.
And while it started a little bit, down and, desperate, it's really changed its tone and becomes a little bit more uplifting as they are progressing through their plan to save Cocoon.
Yep.
Gets very positive right here. Like they're using all their will in order to, go through with their plan and save it.
Yeah. And it's something where they're also like they are receiving support from their friends. It's something where basically that is it like they're doing it for the sake of Cocoon and for the friends, the effectively family that they've created here. But it's not something where it's just them.
It's amazing what, finding and making new friends does to one's outlook on life in general. I mean, it doesn't take a video game for that, but
right. That's like one of the ideas that explores throughout, like the way that one stands against the struggles and vicissitudes of life is with the support of these people that like this family.
Yeah, I find I get by with a little help from my friends too. Well,
I would tell you to feel shame if I thought you capable.
No shame. None whatsoever. All right, let's go ahead and jump to the next one. Kimi ga iru kara. Long version. This is, I believe, the Japanese version of it. Translates to "Because You Are Here." This plays when Lightning, Snow, Hope, and Saz awake from their crystal stasis.
Like after Cocoon is saved, on the surface of Pulse, we pan across them. Now in crystal stasis, having completed their focus.
Okay, we're probably not going to want to play too much of this because this is actually has a lot of vocal track on it and could get us pinged for it. But this does not play on the English version of the game. That is actually going to be a song called "My Hands," sung by Leona Lewis. That song is not on the official soundtrack, but is available on her second album, Echo. So let's go ahead and jump to the next song, which is the final song of the soundtrack.
It's an interesting choice on their part. I do wonder if they wanted something with lyrics that English audiences would be able to understand, given that it's supposed to be the kind of culminating moment of the thing.
Yep. This is called Ending Credits, and that because it is the ending credits. A reprise is first heard during the FMV between Snow and Lightning at the Skyreach and in the Sulia Springs. So there's kind of themes of this that play during the game, but it culminates to this.
Yeah. Like this is that moment they've been reaching and working for this whole time.
Just a nice, light little song as the end credits roll for a job well done for finishing Final Fantasy XIII.
Ooh.
Which we finally also finished the soundtrack now, so.
Yeah.
Hope you guys enjoyed that. If you have a thought as to what route we should take when we resume our dive into all the soundtracks, like I said, we probably won't jump into 14 next because, well, we would be playing that for about 3 years.
11 kind of runs into the same problem. Maybe we just need to do like a top 10 from each expansion or something. We'll talk it out.
Yep.
But yeah, we'd definitely love to hear what you all would like to hear next.
Because 13-2 was probably the most successful Final Fantasy sequel. Though it wasn't the first one. And it won't be the last one. I want to say it also has some of my favorite music in 13-2. I know some of my favorite gameplay, but or do we want to jump to 15? Let us know your thoughts. Podcast at FFXIV-themed.com. Hit us up on our Discord. Let us know what your ideas are.
Mystic Quest. You know they do it.
So yeah, I mean, we want. I have a number. I have a lot more soundtracks. I've got the 10-2 soundtrack. I've got the 13-2 soundtrack. I have
a lot of memories and opinions. They could be yours to hear.
Yep, I have not all of the 11 soundtrack, but I have all of the 14 soundtracks. But literally, I think 14 has about 800 songs or 800 tracks to go through.
And yet they keep using that one for when you complete the relic tool quests. You've got so much music to choose from, people. Anyways, that's a separate rant.
Well, they could play papaya, 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 papaya.
If you keep giving us situations where we will need papaya, I will not object.
Well, that will be coming up soon.
That'll be later.
Yeah, it'll be the next event after Little Ladies Day, isn't it?
I believe so. Hatching Tide.
Yep, the Easter event.
Pretty much, yeah.
We'll let this one kind of play out, and as we kind of contemplate another episode down in the books.
It's been a long, strange trip.
It has, but we're here, we're having fun, and we hope you guys are enjoying it just as much as we do. So any final thoughts for 13, Seyrr?
Oh, like so many of the Final Fantasies, it was experimental in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a thing for every single one, especially as Yoshi P pointed out, as this the history of the series has gone on, as you get more and more time between each, the trends change, and it does seem like something where rather than defining the trends, it now like kind of explores and goes along with it, but still does try to strike out and do its own take on things. I know that 13 is controversial in part because of a lot of the changes they made in the gameplay and the battle system, but I think at the very least in terms of the story, which the music goes so much to support, you have this really beautiful, touching story of these people, all of them with their own, in some cases, extremely serious problems, coming together and forming this really beautiful family. The Japanese uses the word nakama a lot, which we don't have as neat a equivalent for, so we'll go with family. And yeah, I think it was this really brilliant exploration of what it means to fight against the fate, how we handle it, how we handle these types of things of mortality, of loss. Yeah, there's a lot going on here, and I think the storytelling really should get a lot more credit, and the music does so much to support that storytelling. Creating these feel for these locations, communicating aspects of character, of place through all that. I really love it.
It was a good game. I enjoyed it. Like I said, 13 was fun. 13-2 was one of my favorites. 13-3, we're not going to talk as much about that.
It was trying to do some interesting things. Yeah. I give it some respect.
I mean, it's the only real solo player Final Fantasy game out there. Everything else, you've got a party that supports you. In 13-3, you are Lightning, and that is it.
They were experimenting.
Yep. I mean, the story, it makes sense to why it's just Lightning, but it just makes it such a very different feel for a Final Fantasy game. I mean, it feels more like Final Fantasy Adventure at that point, because that's also a solo player game, but that's not technically Final Fantasy, even though it has a Final Fantasy name. So yeah. Anyway, with that, that's going to do it for this episode, guys. If you liked what you heard, please make sure to like, subscribe, or follow us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, whatever your preferred podcatcher is, and if possible, leave us a rating or review. It helps other people to find our show and lets us know how we're doing. If you really dig the show, you can consider subscribing here at twitch.tv/PhoenixDown Radio, where we do this show live every other Saturday night at 5 p.m. Pacific time?
Yes.
8 p.m. Eastern. I had to think there for a second. Time is weird. Where you'll get access to a number of subscriber-only emotes and badges. And plus, you get to hang out with us and be a part of the show, which is always the fun part of it. And we like hanging out with you guys. So please, if you're listening to us on the podcast, join us live sometime. Or you can go out to support us at Patreon at patreon.com/PhoenixDownRadio, like our benevolent overlord, Rory Fenrir, or our Secret of Nevermore Ravenheart. All proceeds go towards growing the show, cover things like hosting costs, allow us to improve and upgrade our equipment, as well as do fun things like contests and giveaways. But any kind of support, whether it's likes, tweets, follows, subs, donations, whatever, it's all greatly appreciated because we just like interacting with you guys. It does make this a lot more fun. If you want to check out our backlog of episodes, you can go out to our website, PhoenixDownRadio.com. If you have questions, suggestions, or just want to say hi, you can email us at podcast@PhoenixDownRadio.com. And probably the best place to get a hold of us is our Discord, which you can go to PhoenixDownRadio.com/Discord. It will redirect you to our Discord page and join us there and be a part of the community and hang out and chat with us. It's a lot of fun. Seyrr, do you have any shout outs for the week?
Ooh, let's see. I'm going to say shout out to my friends Thomas and Simone, who have been encouraging me to like actually run roulettes and get my tomestones and being general cool beans to hang out with. We did maps earlier. It was fun. It was silly. I ended up soloing the last boss of a Elpis map after everyone else got killed by the AoEs. It was fun. It was a little scary.
But you survived.
Yes, and we got pretty decent loot.
Hooray.
Hey. So yeah, big shout out to you guys. Love hanging out with you. I promise to pull a little less scary next time we attempt Criterion. But
No,
only
you
a
don't.
little.
No, you don't.
Oh, a little.
Which means
Like
you're not going to change. No change. Don't lie to me, Seyrr.
Fine, and I don't see why people are complaining.
You're just helping build character, that's all.
Yep. So you can technically find me on Twitter at FF14Seyrr. That's FFXIV-SEYRR. Though really the most reliable way to find me is on the Phoenix Down Radio Discord. Love to get your comments. Love to see what you've been up to. Yeah. General, like if you've got questions, I love doing the librarian thing and I'm happy to help you out. Yeah, we just love to see you all there and I'll hope to continue seeing our listeners there in the future.
Exactly. Perfect. Of course, I want to shout you out for joining me on the episode again. It's a lot of fun. Shout out to everybody in the Discord, especially those who are trying to band together to help one another get tickets to FanFest. I hope those who wants to go are able to go. Good luck to those jumping in on the general pre-sale. Shout out to all of our supporters. Like I said, we wouldn't be able to do this without you as easily. I mean, we'd still do it, but you guys make it a lot more fun and a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
And made it so we could, replace Seyrr's PC after it went kaputski.
Very big thank you for that again, by the way.
Yeah. How's the new computer running, by the way? Really haven't followed up with you in the last few months.
Stuff is good. I don't want to divert the end of show stuff with gushing about things, but everything is running well. I can run a whole bunch of stuff simultaneously, which again, my Criterion group gripes a little bit about because apparently I'm not supposed to be sharing Discord links, memes on Discord in between my GCDs, but what do they know?
Well, I mean, at least you can have at least 3 tabs open in Chrome right now, right?
Ooh. I mean, add a 0 on the end of it.
No, I'm just being silly.
But no, stuff is running good. Things are great. It is a lot easier to make all the stuff work. And again, thank you so much to our supporters for that. It really does mean a lot even now.
So huge shout out to you guys. You know who you are. Thank you so much for all of your support for that. And like I said, best place to find me again, it also is the Discord. I really am not posting out on Twitter anymore because it's just I'm not really comfortable out there anymore.
It sure is a thing now.
And and I'm not really sure what the next real contender is going to be, whether it's going to be Mastodon, whether it's going to be another one of these up and coming social media networks.
This is a whole thing.
It is. So the best thing, like I said, if you want to be a part of the Phoenix Down Radio family, please join the Discord. It's free, and we have a lot of fun, and we can build up memes and just have a good time. So we hope to see you there. So for my co-host Seyrr Timono, I am Klauss Nightbringer, wishing everybody a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care.
Phoenix Down Radio is a production of PhoenixDownRadio.com and Illusion Productions. Final Fantasy XIV and Eorzea are trademarks of Square Enix. In-game content for Phoenix Down Radio is the copyright of Square Enix. Opening music for Phoenix Down Radio is provided by Guilty Gear Rock You. Check out the Metal Chocobo theme cover and many other music videos at youtube.com/Guilty Gear Rock You. Closing music for this episode is provided by Guitar Wanker 90. Please check out their full version of Matoya's Cave and other rock video game covers at youtube.com/Guitar Wanker 90. The views and opinions expressed in this episode are those of Phoenix Down Radio and its hosts and do not reflect the views of Square Enix.